They came back.
You are surprised.
I think I'm going to say that every single time. Well, I just appreciate it. Like, you came back. Thanks. Right?
Yeah.
Thanks for coming back, everybody. I'm Katie Shaull, and this is...
I'm Rebecca Booth.
And this is K Speaks. Today, this will be part part uno, of a discussion about IEPs. We talked, and since it'll be kind of back to school time, we thought it would be a good time to have an open discussion about like a service that incorporates working with schools to ensure that students, kids, have supports that they need to be successful while getting education.
Yeah.
What does an IEP stand for, Smarty Pants?
Individualized education plan.
Look at that. So,
Do I pass?
We'll A minus.
Well, that sucks.
I just didn't want to give you an A plus quite yet.
Fine.
We'll grade you at the end.
Okay.
So, how we kind of came about this subject, do you want to kind of explain, or would you like me to explain it?
I'm very passionate about IEPs and the kiddos I see whose IEPs or 504 plans aren't being implemented. It really just gets a bee in my bonnet. And last year, I guess I got really passionate because last year I had a teacher taking away one of my clients' recesses and then was complaining that my client was having behaviors because they weren't having recesses. I won, and I made it be put in the IEP, and it's supposed to be in the IEP, but that, I will talk about that, that's in here. But so now I'm hee-hawing around about becoming an IEP advocate through K counseling, because I'm really passionate about it, and I get really pissed off when
followed. And I think as therapists, we find ourselves kind of like, so here's therapist, here maybe be our client / student child, however reference, and then the school.
You in the microphone.
It's okay. So I'm gonna just out here. So a lot of times, if we suggest coping skills, or if there is issues within the school, they'll often say, oh, therapist, give suggestions. How can we help client, student be more successful? So we may have suggestions or have been working on it with client during session. And of course, we know collaboration.
I'll go in like a wrecking ball.
No, not a wrecking ball.
Why?
Collaboration. It's kind of like holding hands and singing Kumbaya.
Don't take away my students.
We want that, right?
Don't take away my client's recess, and I won't be mad.
Well, we want to go in there, let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya, right? We want to work together. That's a collaborative effort. We really, really do. So that's how we as therapists or mental health professionals kind of find ourselves getting involved in schools. And sometimes schools will reach out to us before the families or, the clients. And, we often find that helps quite a bit because it also gives us some insight onto what's going on at school and what may be some like things that the client that we're seeing may be struggling with, that maybe it's only at a school environment. So that's pretty helpful too. But anyway, so we sometimes may be involved at IEP meetings. And Rebecca and I have come across, which I am sure a lot of people watching this have come across, that there is just not enough information out there on IEPs, and parents or caregivers' rights with IEPs.
It's very vague.
Yes. And we have a lot of people that ask us questions. We'll ask the therapist questions. And they just don't feel like they're supported or that they're getting answered, or they feel like, I just don't think that's right. And the school's telling me this, and we know information, and we may say this, and it's just kind of contradictory. So we just felt that putting out the information and research that Miss Rebecca has especially done, she really has gone in depth, and really, really done her research, specifically on Iowa law.
Yes.
But I think, have you done federal?
Yes, federal and Iowa is in here.
Yeah. So she's really gone in depth, and she knows her stuff.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You like, you can quote it.
I hope.
You can quote it and know it.
Okay.
All right.
So there's two things that you can get for your student with disabilities. So they have access to the general education curriculum and be able to participate in school activities, and that is with the IEP or 504 plan. Both are legally binding contracts, and the main difference is that an IEP provides a more comprehensive specialized education plan for students who qualify for special ed. And a 504 is if you have disabilities that prevent you from getting through the general education curriculum. So like if you need an extra time on tests, that would be like a 504 plan. But if you are like in 5th grade and have a 1st grade reading level and have like dyslexia and a bunch of other stuff, that would fall under an IEP.
Sometimes like mental health also can fall within the 504.
Yeah.
Depending on symptoms, severity, what kind of support that may be needed. So we often encourage a 504 because sometimes if maybe a support like having access to fidgets, maybe being able to have a break to leave the classroom, something like that we like advocate for, maybe put into a treatment plan or something like that. A 504 might need to be developed, or that kind of stuff would need to go into a 504.
Yeah. So the IEP and 504 are part of the IDEA, which is Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which only came out in 1975. So like not very long.
Yeah.
It sucks. So it's that the IDEA is a federal law that ensures students with disabilities between the ages of 3 and 21 receive a free and appropriate public education. That's going to be like your key word, like your key thing to stab the administration with when they're all like, "Come get your student." But that's later on. So that's FAPE, FAPE, free and appropriate public education, and the supports and services they need. So like the key points about IDEA is it's a requirement for public schools to develop an IEP for each student with a disability. It covers a wide range of disabilities, including learning, physical, developmental, and emotional. It mandates that students with disabilities be educated alongside their non-disabled peers to the maximum extent appropriate. So way back in the day, some of these kids were separated and just shoved like in a broom closet. And
I remember like growing up that it was so unfortunate, but that, and I just remember it being called special ed.
Yeah. Or
and
resource.
Those kids.
Yes.
And those kids were special ed kids. And it was that room kind of shoved down a
end of the
specific
hallway.
Yep. Down a specific hallway when I was in high school. And I'm 40 years old.
You're younger than me.
So, not by much, but and so, I mean, that really isn't that that long ago. But
It
I
really
think
isn't.
there still is that mentality and stigma, though, in schools today.
Yes.
That if someone has a disability, whether it's intellectual struggles with, if they get upset and maybe they struggle in the hallway or something sometime and their peers might see it, that's not going to be forgotten.
No.
So,
No.
yeah, it's very unfortunate.
So the free and accessible public education is the foundation that ensures students with disabilities have the opportunity to receive a quality public education and the supports necessary for them to succeed. So FAPE is guaranteed by federal law. So like there's no change in it unless they do the whole bill on Capitol Hill thing. I don't know. That's beyond me. Entitles students with disabilities to specialized instruction and related services at no cost to the family. So like transportation, braille, keyboard, sign language interpreter, all that stuff. It ensures that students can access the general education curriculum and participate in school activities, and that the education being received by the student is tailored to the individual student's needs through an IEP or 504. So it's not just a blanket, everybody come sit down and learn math. It's nope, this student has a 504, an IEP, they need to go with this person to get extra help with math. And also with FAPE, as the students get older into high school, they start working on preparing the student to further education for employment and independent living, which I think is fantastic.
Yes. Yep. I do believe in that, and I think that is really great.
Yeah. So the key aspects of an IEP, like I said, it's a legally binding document it identifies the student's current academic performance and functional abilities, setting specific measurable goals for the student to work towards. So like if a student is hard of hearing and they need to sit in a certain spot in the classroom, that affords them to do that. Specifying specialized instruction, accommodation, and related services like speech therapy, occupational therapy. A lot of people don't believe me, occupational therapy can be put into IEPs, and especially for students with autism and ADHD, I push it because their fine motor skills can super suck.
So fine motor could be holding a pencil.
And their handwriting is terrible.
So I know my older son really struggled when he was young and first starting school with being able to hold a pencil and gripping. And it was so amazing, but it was suggested because he was kind of assessed putting those pencil grippers to make the pencil thicker. And so that helped him be able to hold the pencil and increase his fine motor at that developmental level. And that improved things for him so much.
Yeah.
So simple things like that, OT can help, and they can come in and assess that.
Yeah.
So scissor cutting, anything like that, if there needs to be an adaptive special scissor that maybe, someone needs due to fine motor, anything like that.
Yeah. With the 50, or excuse me, with an IEP, a lot of parents feel like that they can't have people there to advocate for them or just to be there as a support. And you can invite your boomer neighbor to come with you for support. And I do suggest that you bring somebody to help take notes, because you are going to be overwhelmed with all the information, all the data. If the teachers and administration have their ducks in a row, you're going to be just overwhelmed with all this information, and you're going to be like, what? And you won't be able to like calmly and collectively look through the IEP and be like, okay, and you're just going to sign it. But Yeah, you can ask some. I've attended several IEPs as a therapist.
I have as well, and also as a care coordinator in the
Yeah.
past. So yeah, in, various capacities. Um, as a parent, I was very, very thankful to have knowledge of IEP, the knowledge that I have had as just knowing these things in my professional world, but attending them in different capacities, and then going in as the role of a parent. And I feel like when I went in as my parent role, I think the school was maybe a little taken back by the knowledge that I did know. I don't know if they were expecting that. I did not tell the school what profession I did, because I felt like that may have caused some stigma. Now, if that would be true or not, um, you know, I don't know. But I think that sometimes when people hear, like, yep, I'm a therapist, I think that's kind of a disservice to my kids sometimes, maybe not, but it's kind of like, oh, your mom's a therapist, huh? Mm. Oh, she thinks she knows, huh? So I think, but maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I think sometimes they may get that, but
Oh, my kids' friends forget that I'm a therapist until they start acting out, and then I'm like on them. And then my son's like, "Stop being a therapist."
yeah. So I did not share that, and so I went in there, and I think, again, it really, I think, kind of, but maybe that was just my interpretation and kind of my feelings on it, but.
Yeah. Um, so a step down from an IEP is a 504, and again that ensures access and accommodations for students with disabilities in the general education setting. Um, the 504 is for students who do not require specialized instructions but need accommodations to access the general education curriculum. So extra time on tests, breaks, fidgets. What else? I can't think of anything off the top
And
of
I
my
do
head.
want to emphasize that one thing that I did experience going in a parental role is that a school psychologist, they will have, like, specifically, I guess, in what the school district that my child was in, when requesting an IEP, they had the school psychiatrist or whoever they contract with evaluate my child, and they very much, the distinction that they really emphasized was having an intellectual disability.
Ugh.
And so, because my son did not have an intellectual disability, that's why he did not qualify for any IEP.
When am I going to that meeting?
No. But so, and because he did not have also any physical disabilities, that would impair him to the point where he would have
Is this for
needed.
your oldest or youngest?
No, youngest. So,
When am I going in?
I already told you all about this. Anyway, but that, again, in that particular school district, I felt was really enforced, or like really emphasized, and noting that is why he did not qualify for the IEP. In fact, my son is very extremely intelligent, so we decided to go the different route on the options they presented. So I feel that, I don't know if anyone else out there has experienced that either, but that was my experience.
Yeah. Um, Actually, the first time I tried to get an IEP for my kid, they, I was told he didn't need one because he could read. But lo and behold, his comprehension was garbage. And then they were like, "He's not understanding it." I was like, "Okay." So anyway, um, this is kind of the next part is like the timeline, and this is where things kind of tend to fall apart. So when a request is made for an IEP, the school has 15 days to set up a meeting to discuss the referral and what evaluations are needed. And this is the point where you need to be specific and say, I want my child to have a PT evaluation due to extremely poor handwriting. You just can't say, I want Mexican food, and then be mad when they bring you out random Mexican food. You have to be specific, because if you're not, the school's going to be like, sorry about your luck. Better luck next time. So once the parent signs the consent form, and when the school district receives the consent form, that's when the 60-day countdown begins for the school to complete the full initial evaluation. Now, the school pays for the evaluation. The parent doesn't have to. But if the parent disagrees, they can go private and get their own, so on and so forth. But once it's determined that your child needs an IEP, so they go through the evaluation process and they're like, yep, this is a thing. The school has 30 calendar days to schedule the first IEP meeting. My piece of advice here is do not sign anything until you are okay with the rough draft. And you are allowed to sit there and be like, explain this to me. Explain this to me like I'm 5. And what is this going to look like? How is this going to be? Like, you have that right. That makes me very passionate. As the parent, you're allowed to read it and offer suggestions. You can ask questions if you don't understand what is being said. They're going to try to push it within 45 minutes, but no, you don't have to. You can, explain this to me like I'm 5. Once the IEP is created and signed, it's implemented right away, but legally the school has 30 days to implement the IEP. And then after that, the school has 21 days to give the parent a copy of the IEP with signatures. I suggest making a binder and keeping all this together, or a folder, because in case something happens, you need to make a complaint or file something or talk to, not the supervisor, because that's what you are, school superintendent. I was gonna get
minds.
Yeah. In case you have
sometimes.
The school board superintendent, you're gonna want to be like, here are my receipts. Yes. So now we're talking about the behavior intervention plan, which gets me so mad. So a lot of parents don't know. Hold on, let me back up this train because I'm trying not to like ADHD geek out. So some schools will try to put behaviors in an IEP. That's okay if they're like small, as in like they're allowed to get up and want like go get a drink and come back without issues if they're feeling like super fidgety. But if they have big explosive behaviors, you're going to want to get a behavior intervention plan, which is called a BIP. And it's a written document that outlines specific strategies for the adults in the school to address problematic behaviors exhibited by a student in an educational setting. So like, if your child just explodes and is like chucking chairs and desks and stabbing students with pencils, you're going to want a BIP.
I really hope not stabbing pencils.
It happens.
I know it does.
We've had a client that does.
I know.
Okay.
I really hope not.
So the key points of a BIP are it's developed based on an FBA, which is a functional behavioral assessment, and it's used to identify the root causes and functions of a student's problem behaviors. So is a student exploding because they're overwhelmed and they just need 5 minutes to step out to like help with that, to calm down and collect? Do they have a hard time with transitioning? Like what's causing this? Because behavior is a way of communication. Kids just don't wake up and be like, I'm going to trash the school today. They don't do that. It establishes clear, measurable behavior goals for the student to work towards. So like decreasing pencil throwing by 3 times in a week. I don't know. It specifies research-based interventions and supports to be implemented by the adults, school staff to help the student improve their behavior. So if the student needs to utilize like the calm down room, but not, what's that room that they used to put kids in? The padded room.
Yeah. Well, it's
Seclusion.
named.
Seclusion.
Yeah, I was gonna say it can be named different things.
I know it as seclusion. That thankfully is going away. They're trying to implement more calm down rooms and not seclusion. It designates the responsibilities for implementing the plan. So like if the student has a para, a one-on-one, a one-on-two, or if there's a certain teacher that, well, that's a big fat gray area. It lists who can do what. It's a collaborative effort, and it really helps the student provide. It really helps to provide the student a structured, productive, proactive approach to teaching the student more appropriate behaviors and skills. It's just another way of getting that in. And then a lot of schools don't want to do it. I don't know the reason. I can guess, but I don't have like I don't have receipts to say like, yeah, this is why the schools don't want to do it. They get federal dollars for it, so I don't understand.
I don't know. And we're really not trying to beat up on schools either. We know that schools really try. I know that there are a lot of budget cuts. Teachers really go through a lot of stuff. My heart goes out to teachers. I know that they, dip in their pockets for school supplies. And so we get frustrated about situations. We get frustrated about certain cases and situations, that's for sure. But all in all, we do support schools. And so I think what you probably see is our experience with frustrations and what we've seen with certain cases. But
because by the time it comes to our attention, like with our clients, it's been escalated and it's a big hot mess. And so you and I are like, what? What?
Yeah. So, we do really want to advocate that, try and work with the schools, because I know that they really want to try and figure something out, because it's not fun,
For anybody.
So I think we definitely are advocating for everybody to try and be collaborative.
Yes.
So I know schools are dealing with a lot. Things are always changing for schools, unfortunately, with policies, laws, budget cuts, teachers getting laid off, losing their jobs all the time.
Yeah. Having like 40 students in a classroom.
Yeah, and no extra help.
Right.
So we do understand. We do get it.
So I think we're going to pause here, and our next one, we're going to talk about what to say when the administration is just on one.
Yeah, so this was part 1, and we're going to continue with additional information on IEPs, 504s, and all that kind of stuff for schools and trying to work with schools, again, for those supports for your kiddos. So please check in on part 2 to continue to get that information. But thank you so much for watching this video. We so appreciate it. We hope you got something out of this video. Please let people know about our channel and pass it along. All right, we'll see you on part 2.
Thank you.